Last week we talked about the Washington state, also including the last year's ruling for Seattle to have a minimum pay per mile, per minute, both of which are over $1 across the state, but even higher in Seattle. But I explained to you guys how the floor payment will bring down the ceiling of what you can earn, and we've seen that in other markets, hence New York. So that was what we discussed last week. This week, a few stories, obviously out. Go through a couple real quick. Again, every story I'm talking about here, I'm going to put in the show notes to this video, and then you can go and read about them because they're all on what website? UberLiftDrivers.com. UberLiftDrivers.com. It's not just for rideshare anymore. It's all gigs. Okay, so go over there, check it out. Make sure that you check it out often. There's not a lot, there's no ads popping up. I've made it an easy read format, but news goes up daily. And it's everything I'm going to talk about right here, even if I don't get into the story, is on there. Okay, so one of the big stories that came around this week, we saw that Uber will be adding hotels, airfare, trains to the app that you can purchase, just like you would through whoever you use. Travelocity, Kayak, or Expedia. If anybody didn't get that joke, so the CEO of Uber is the old CEO of Expedia. All they did was take the Uber app, and he said, hey, let's just put Expedia in it. However, he's 15 years too late or at least 10 years too late let's call it 10. He's 10 years too late to the party of apps that do that sort of service. I think they're relying on the fact that Uber's database is so big that people will book through Uber. My thing on this, and then I'll leave it alone, is that people won't book on Uber. People have had issues on Uber. People, even if it's little tiny things, they'll remember that, and they won't want to book a big thing like a flight or a hotel and know that their customer service, even if it's going to be better and in a different department, which we don't even know, it might not, but even if it is, there's a bad taste. Even for those who keep using Uber, there's still not a good taste. So I don't see people flocking to it. I don't see this being a win. In fact, I don't see it lasting past, give it 6 months, it'll be gone. The Lyft DoorDash merger, talked about it a little bit this week. I put out a Tuesday video because I saw this and a couple other things. And, will it happen? Who knows? Does it make sense? Maybe. They're both just here in the U.S. Lyft was so coming for little sister. They were so coming up on Uber for a while, and then they just kind of fell back again. And now they're just who's going to get to a profit first. But Uber's still going to always be that larger company. Lyft is only in this country. They have sold off all of their services, other than like a small part of autonomous in like 2 companies. But even that, it's not enough to like call anything. The reason that their margins and their profits are getting close to making a profit is because they have sold off divisions. So the fact that they're just down to rideshare, and DoorDash is still the strongest delivery platform here in the U.S. However, delivery is dying off some. It just is. I've talked about this a lot of times. Some people agree with me, some people don't. Seems like a few more are agreeing with me lately because I've been saying for a while that, it's not a bad thing. It was just bound to happen. And by that, I mean, like, by too much volume going to lesser volume, it just means oversaturation needs to be dealt with. So, the hardcores, because I've been through these waves with rideshare before. Oversaturated, then somehow the price comes back even if the per mile doesn't. So, it happens, and the tough ones will stick through it and they will weather the storm. No way we can get into this story today. However, on the open forum, I'm happy to talk about this if you guys want to. Again, all these are up on uberlyftdrivers.com. But the Grubhub, DoorDash, UberEats must face antitrust laws accusing them of cannibalizing dine-in market, judge rules. Interesting article. The new Uber scam of not masking. You're probably going, what the heck are you talking about, Steve? Because masking was 2 years ago, bro. We're just barely masking at all. I'm not really going to jump into that because that is something I talked about also on Tuesday. Read the article. It's short. I want to start getting you guys to the website anyway. It's quick reads. They're good. But we can also talk about that on open forum. Open forums for you guys. But we can talk about that. It's mainly happening at big airports, and it's happening by the drivers this time. So just note that. So, so Uber makes nice with the cab companies. So there's some more information to be found out about what is going on with Uber here and New York City cab. So around the world, since 2020 till now, Uber does have a hand in 120,000. Let me see my notes. 120,000 taxis around the world. What does that mean? It means different things in different places. I don't know if every one of you remembers how I've told you before on the audio podcast at least that Uber goes to a country, they just launch, they get kicked out, they come back, they work out a deal, they stay, or they get kicked out again, they come back, they work on another deal. They just kind of force their way in. So with Spain, Barcelona in particular, there was a different way that Spain fought Uber for the taxi, because the taxi industry in Barcelona went crazy. They were stopping all the streets. It was a protest like no other cab protest we've seen. And Barcelona ruled that even though they had made deals with Uber, yes, you can be here, you can do your service, they altered that service to say that after a driver dropped off, he couldn't pick up another Uber ride for 15 minutes. So what they were doing was putting in an average taxi wait times 2. So if it was 7 minutes, it should have been 14, but they were calling it 15. So if an average taxi dropped off, and even if they picked right back up normally, if the wait time in an off area after the drop off to get another call was 7 minutes, Uber had to wait 15. And the idea there was that it was giving the taxis a major advantage. So what did Uber do? They left. What did Spain do? They didn't care. Or Barcelona. I know that it's different in different parts of Spain. If you understand the breakdown of that country, you would understand why. So you can look into that. But what's going on with the New York City cabs? So I did find some information that led me down some other rabbit holes, and at least we're starting to see maybe what's going on, because Uber, the whole way that this started with Yellow Cab was over the signage on top of the cabs in New York City. And if you guys know, they tried to, and in fact, for a while it was okay, or they just did it until they got the regulations came down on them to put signs up on top of your Uber and display signs, and you would get paid. And the regulators said, nope, you can't do that. So Uber had to rip all those down. So the conversation began between Yellow Cab New York and Uber, because in the pandemic and coming out of it, both rideshare and the cab industry, which has already been demolished in New York, was double demolished, and rideshare was demolished. So how did these talks start? They started by these display signs. Uber wants those display signs, and in exchange, they're going to offer cabbies a little more of a perk. We'll yet to see what that is. From everything I've read, every cabbie in New York has a story on why this won't work. And these aren't just cabbies saying screw Uber, blah, blah. These are people who know, and they're like, here's what's going to happen. And I've read like what they say, and that's kind of my thinking too. Like everything that they say seems to make sense. We know Uber's not a company on the up and up. So we'll have to see with that. But here's another kicker story. So New York City was supposed to be the test city for this taxi rollout thing. We had the Washington, New York legislation come down, and now we have in San Francisco, which is tech headquarters, we have the cab company, Flywheel, is now teaming up with Uber in a little bit different but kind of same way as out in New York. So that's it, guys. That's the news. I'll be live here right after this. So you guys come into the live forum. We can talk about any of this, or we cannot talk about it, not at all, and just talk about some other things today. Also, you can go to the website uberlyftdrivers.com and you can read all of these stories. So I'm going to put every link in the show notes right now. Last week I was rushed to upload this, but I've got a little more time, so I'm going to put them in there now so that when this is over, right now you're watching this, the links are in the show notes. So hit show more, see the show notes, go to uberlyftdrivers.com, or just go to uberlyftdrivers.com. Okay? 5 years now, guys. 5 years, 4,000 articles. Come on, I've been crushing it, dude. And also, you can find the audio podcast always streams on there. It's not the prettiest interface, but it says podcast. Just click it. You can go to any episode, or you can go to ridesharerodeo.com. And obviously, you know where to find me here because you're on YouTube watching this. So, for 13-minute news, peace.